The morning I came home from a 22-hour emergency call, I found a for sale sign stabbed into the yard of the house I'd been secretly paying off for 4 years. My white CEO wife was supposed to be in Charlotte on business, but her suitcase wheels were rolling across our hardwood floor at 6:47 a.m. What I discovered in our kitchen, a lipstick stained mug, champagne glasses in the trash, and a silver cufflink with the initials CM, was just the beginning. When her phone lit up with a voice message, I pressed play and heard my wife's lover mock me while they planned their next encounter. Let him mow the lawn while we shower. But here's what they didn't know. I owned that house free and clear. I had a partnership deal that would make me richer than both of them, and I was about to turn their betrayal into the most expensive mistake of their lives. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're from, because what happened next will restore your faith that karma always collects what it's owed. The morning mist hung low over our neighborhood like a gray blanket. I pulled my work truck into the driveway just as the sun started peeking through the oak trees. 22 hours straight fixing that busted transmission at the depot. My back ached, my hands were raw from the cold metal. But I felt good. Another emergency call handled, another satisfied customer. But something was wrong with my yard. I sat in the truck for a moment, rubbing my eyes. Maybe I was seeing things. 22 hours of work could mess with a man's vision. But no, there it was, clear as day. A bright red and white for sale sign stabbed right into the center of my front lawn. My lawn. My house. The house I'd been paying for since Victoria and I got married 4 years ago. I climbed out of the truck, my work boots crunching on the dewy grass. The sign looked fresh, professional, real, like someone had planted it there while I was gone, expecting me to just accept it. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out with shaky fingers and called my cousin Nia. She picked up on the second ring. Dev? You're calling early. What's wrong? Nia, did you put a for sale sign in my yard? Silence. Then what? No. Why would I do that without talking to you first? Because you're my realtor and Devin? Her voice got serious. I didn't put any sign anywhere. What's going on? I walked closer to the sign, checking for any company name or number. Standard Coldwell Banker logo. Professional printing. This wasn't some prank. I just got home from that emergency call in Charlotte. There's a for sale sign in my front yard, and I didn't put it there. That's strange. Take a picture and send it to me, right now. I snapped a photo with my phone, making sure to get the timestamp. 6:47 a.m. The morning light was getting stronger, and I could see Mrs. Whitman across the street pretending to get her newspaper while watching me. She held that paper for way too long, stealing, glances at me, and the sign. Sent, I told Nia. Got it. This is definitely not from my office. Someone else authorized this, Dev. You need to find out who. I hung up and stared at the sign again. In our neighborhood, a for sale sign was like a neon announcement. Everyone would see it. Everyone would talk. Mrs. Eleanor Hale, Victoria's mother, would have a heart attack when she drove by later. The front door of my house looked the same as always. White paint I'd touched up last month. Black shutters I'd installed myself. Everything perfect, just like Victoria liked it. But something felt different. The air smelled wrong, like someone had been burning candles inside. I walked up the steps and pushed open the front door. The house was too clean. Not Victoria clean, not lived in clean. This was staged clean, like those model homes we'd looked at when we first got married. Every pillow fluffed, every magazine stacked just right. Even the mail was sorted in a perfect pile on the hall table. Victoria was supposed to be in Charlotte until tonight, some big meeting with potential investors for her beauty company. She'd left Sunday morning with her silver suitcase and promises to call every night, but she'd only called once, Monday evening, and the conversation felt rushed. I set my work bag down and listened. The house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the soft tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway. My footsteps echoed as I walked toward the kitchen. That's when I heard it, the sound of suitcase wheels rolling across hardwood floors. The front door opened. Devin? Why is there a for sale sign in our yard? Victoria stood in the doorway, her silver suitcase beside her. She looked perfect, as always, hair pulled back in that business style she wore for important meetings. Navy blue suit that probably cost more than I made in a week. But her face was flushed, and her lipstick was slightly smudged. "Good morning to you too," I said. "I was about to ask you the same question." She rolled her suitcase inside and closed the door behind her. "This is not funny, Devin. What will the neighbors think?" "I don't know. What do you think they'll think?" Her eyes narrowed. She hated when I answered her questions with questions. "Who authorized this? Did you call a realtor without discussing it with me?" I leaned against the doorframe between the hallway and kitchen. "Who said it wasn't authorized?" "Don't play games with me. I just got home from 3 days of crucial meetings and there's a for sale sign in our yard like we're some desperate family who can't afford their mortgage." 3 days? She'd said it was a 2-day trip, Sunday to Tuesday. But here she was on Tuesday morning, talking about 3 days. "How were the meetings?" I asked. "Productive, challenging. The investors want to see more diversity in our marketing approach." She kicked off her heels and walked toward the kitchen. "I need coffee, and I need that sign gone before Mrs. Patterson across the street starts spreading rumors." I followed her into the kitchen. The morning light streaming through the windows made everything look golden and warm. But something was still off. Victoria moved around the space like she was relearning where everything belonged. And then I saw it. On the counter next to the coffee maker sat a white ceramic mug with a perfect lipstick stain on the rim. Dark red lipstick. Victoria always wore nude or light pink shades for business meetings. I picked up the mug and turned it in my hands. "Whose mug is this?" Victoria glanced over from where she was opening cabinets. "Mine, obviously. I grabbed coffee before I left Sunday." "You were wearing pink lipstick Sunday morning. This is red." She paused, her hand frozen on the cabinet handle. I I changed my lipstick for the meetings. Wanted to look more assertive." I nodded and set the mug down. Then I walked to the trash can and lifted the lid. Inside, beneath some crumpled napkins, were 2 champagne flutes, crystal ones, the expensive set Victoria's mother had given us for our first anniversary, the ones we only used for special occasions. "Special occasion?" I asked, pulling one of the glasses out. "What are you doing going through our trash?" "Our trash, in our house, that you said you haven't been to since Sunday morning." Victoria's face was getting redder. "I came home Sunday night to grab some files, had a glass of wine while I worked. Is that a crime?" "2 glasses?" I was stressed. "Sue me." I set the champagne flute on the counter next to the coffee mug. Then, something caught my eye near the bar cart in the corner. A small silver object on the floor, partially hidden under the cabinet overhang. I walked over and picked it up. A cufflink, expensive looking, engraved with the initials CM, Cole Mercer, Victoria's CFO. I held the cufflink up to the light. "CM, know anyone with those initials?" Victoria's composure finally cracked. "Devin, stop this. You're acting paranoid." "Am I?" I set the cufflink on the counter next to the mug and champagne glass. "Sunday, you were only going to be gone 2 days. Now you say 3. Sunday, you were wearing pink lipstick. This mug has red. You were alone on Sunday night, but there are 2 champagne glasses in the trash. And Cole Mercer's cufflink is on our floor. You don't know whose cufflink that is." "CM, Cole Mercer, your CFO, the man who conveniently had to fly to Charlotte for the same meetings you did." Victoria crossed her arms over her chest. "Even if Cole was here, that doesn't mean anything inappropriate happened. We're business partners. We discuss strategy." "With champagne?" At night, while you're in your bathrobe? I wasn't in my. She stopped herself. I was fully dressed. I didn't say anything about a bathrobe. The silence stretched between us like a tight wire. I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. The refrigerator hummed louder. Victoria's breathing had gotten shallow and quick. Then, her phone, sitting on the counter, lit up with a notification. The screen showed a text preview. Made it worth your time? See. I reached for the phone, but Victoria grabbed it first. That's private. Is it? From Cole? She clutched the phone to her chest. It's a business message. About making it worth your time? What kind of business is that? You're twisting everything. You're tired and paranoid and play the voice note. What voice note? I pointed to her phone. The voice message from C. Right there. I can see the audio icon. Victoria looked down at her screen. Her face went white. There is no play it. I don't have to. I held out my hand. Give me the phone, Victoria. No. Then play the voice note or I'm calling Cole myself to ask about his cufflink. Victoria's hands were shaking now. She looked at me, then at the phone, then at the collection of evidence on the counter. The mug, the champagne glass, the cufflink. Finally, she pressed play. The audio was muffled, but clear enough. Male voice, laughing. Cole's voice. Let him mow the lawn while we shower. More muffled sounds. Victoria's voice, giggling. He has no idea. He thinks I'm in boring investor meetings. Good thing he's too busy with his little mechanic job to pay attention. Imagine if he knew his white CEO wife was. Victoria jabbed the phone, cutting off the recording. But it was too late. The words hung in the air between us like poison gas. His white CEO wife. I looked at Victoria, really looked at her, at the woman I'd married 4 years ago, the woman I'd worked 2 jobs to support while she built her company, the woman whose mother never thought I was good enough, the woman who'd just let her lover mock me on a voice recording while they planned their affair in my house. Devin, she whispered, I can explain. I walked to the kitchen island and pulled out one of the bar stools. I sat down slowly, feeling every one of those 22 hours in my back and shoulders. I looked at the evidence spread across the counter. The mug, the glass, the cufflink, the phone that had just played my humiliation in surround sound. Explain what? I asked quietly. It's not. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? Victoria set her phone down and sat across from me at the island. Cole and we've been working so closely on the expansion, spending so much time together. The attraction just grew. The attraction. To your CFO, who just called me his white CEO wife's husband on a recording. He didn't mean it like that. How did he mean it, Victoria? She looked away. He was. We were. It was just pillow talk. People say things they don't mean. Do they? Do you? What do you mean? I leaned forward. When you were giggling about me thinking you were in boring investor meetings, when you were planning to shower with him while I mowed the lawn, did you mean that? Victoria's perfect composure was crumbling piece by piece, makeup smudged, hair falling out of its perfect style, hands shaking as she reached for words that wouldn't come. I need you to understand something, I said. I just worked 22 straight hours fixing a transmission in a freezing cold depot. I came home to a for sale sign in my yard that I didn't authorize. I found evidence that my wife has been using our home for an affair while I was working. And then I got to hear a recording of her lover mocking me while planning their next encounter. Devin, please. I held up my hand. I'm not done. I need to get something from upstairs. Don't move. I walked upstairs to our bedroom and opened the closet safe. Inside, behind our marriage certificate and Victoria's company papers, was a slim manila folder. I'd been meaning to tell her about this for weeks, but She'd been so busy with work, so stressed about the expansion, that I'd never found the right time. I carried the folder downstairs and placed it on the kitchen island next to the other evidence. Victoria stared at it. "What's that?" "Open it." She reached for the folder with trembling fingers and lifted the cover. Inside were three documents. The first was a mortgage payoff statement, dated 3 months ago. The second was a property deed showing the house in my name only. The third was a partnership agreement with Hector Alvarez, owner of Alvarez Auto Repair, dated 2 months ago. Victoria read through the papers twice, her face getting paler with each page. "I don't understand," she whispered. "I do. Let me explain." I pointed to the payoff statement. 3 months ago, I finished paying off our mortgage. All those overtime hours, all those weekend emergency calls, all those nights I came home too tired to talk. I was paying off our house. Early. She looked up at me. How? The mortgage had 15 years left. Mr. Alvarez offered me a partnership stake in the shop. It came with a signing bonus and a bump in my profit sharing. Plus, I'd been saving every penny of overtime for 2 years. I pointed to the deed. Since I was the only one on the original mortgage and I made all the payments, the house transferred to my name only. You did this without telling me? I wanted to surprise you. I thought you'd be proud that your husband managed to pay off the house early and secure our future. Victoria set the papers down like they were on fire. "So you can really authorize that for sale sign?" "Yes, I can, and I did." "When?" "This morning. I called Naya on my way home from Charlotte, told her to get it listed immediately." Victoria stood up so fast her bar stool nearly fell over. "You can't do this. What about my reputation, my company? What will people think?" I stayed seated looking up at her. What will they think about what? About the sign, about us selling, about the rumors that will start. What rumors, Victoria? That a married couple decided to sell their house and move? That's not really rumor worthy. But if people start asking questions, about what? About why we're selling? About what happened to our marriage? I picked up the cufflink and rolled it between my fingers. About whose cufflink this is. Victoria's eyes went wide. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Tell people about Cole, about us. I looked at her for a long moment. This woman I'd married. This woman I'd supported through every late night building her company. This woman whose mother had looked down on me from day one, but who I'd tried to win over anyway. This woman who'd just spent 3 days in my house with another man while I worked myself to exhaustion. "Victoria," I said quietly, "I'm going to give you a choice. You can help me sell this house quietly and professionally, with dignity for both of us. Or you can keep lying and playing games while I handle it my way." What does that mean? It means Cole's cufflink might end up in interesting places. It means that voice recording might get heard by interesting people. It means your perfect image might develop some cracks. Victoria sank back onto her bar stool. "That's blackmail." "No, that's a boundary. There's a difference. What do you want?" "Respect, honesty, and separate bedrooms until this house sells." "Devin, those are my terms. Take them or leave them." Before Victoria could respond, the doorbell rang. Through the front window, I could see a silver Mercedes in our driveway. Victoria's face went white. "That's my mother." I looked at the kitchen counter. The evidence of Victoria's affair spread out like a crime scene. The papers proving I owned the house. The for sale sign clearly visible through the front window. "This should be interesting," I said. Victoria jumped up and started shoving the papers back into the folder. "She can't see this. She can't know." "Why not?" "Because because she thinks we're perfect. She thinks our marriage is stable. She's been bragging to all her friends about how successful I am, how well married I am." The doorbell rang again, more insistently. I stood up slowly, picked up Cole's cufflink, and slipped it into my pocket. Then I walked to the front door and opened it. Mrs. Eleanor Hale stood on our porch in a cream-colored coat and pearls, her silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. Behind her, she'd clearly gotten a full view of the for sale sign. "Devin," she said with that tone she always used with me, like she was speaking to a child who might not understand big words. I was driving by and couldn't help but notice. "Are we downsizing?" We, like she lived here, like she had any say in what happened to my house. "Good morning, Mrs. Hale," I said. "Victoria's in the kitchen. Come in." She stepped past me, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I could see her taking in every detail. The too clean living room, the perfectly stacked mail, the faint smell of candles that had been burned recently. "Victoria?" she called out. "Coming, mother." Victoria appeared from the kitchen, her hair hastily fixed and her lipstick reapplied. But she couldn't hide the redness around her eyes or the tension in her shoulders. "Darling, what's this about a for sale sign? Are you moving? Is everything all right?" Victoria glanced at me. "We're exploring our options." "What kind of options? This is a beautiful home. You've worked so hard to build your life here." I decided to jump in. "Mrs. Hale, sometimes people need a change, new beginnings and all that." She looked at me like I'd just suggested we burn the house down. New beginnings? Victoria's company is headquartered here. Her social connections are here. Her entire life is here. "Her entire life," I repeated slowly. "Right." The three of us stood in the living room like actors who'd forgotten their lines. The grandfather clock ticked. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Whitman's dog barking. Mrs. Hale broke the silence. "Victoria, darling, perhaps we could talk privately about this decision." "Of course, mother. Devin was just heading to work, weren't you?" I checked my phone. 8:15 a.m. I was supposed to be at the shop by 9, but after 22 hours without sleep, Mr. Alvarez would understand if I was a little late. "Actually," I said, "I think I'll stick around for a bit, make sure everyone's comfortable with our new living situation." "New living situation?" Mrs. Hale's voice went up an octave. "Separate bedrooms," I explained, "while we transition." Victoria made a small choking sound. Mrs. Hale's face went through several different shades of white. "Separate? I see. It's temporary," Victoria said quickly. "Just until we figure things out." "Figure things out," her mother repeated. "And how long might that take?" I pulled out my phone and pretended to check my messages. "Well, the house is listed as of this morning. Depending on market conditions, showings, interested buyers, could be a few weeks, could be a few months." "Listed? You've already listed it?" Mrs. Hale looked like she was about to faint. "Time's a factor in real estate," I said. "The sooner you move, the better your chances of getting full asking price." "And what," Mrs. Hale asked in a voice like broken glass, "is the asking price?" I named a number that made both women blink. "That's quite substantial," Mrs. Hale said slowly. "Yes, it's amazing what you can afford when you own a home outright. No mortgage payments, no debt, just pure equity." Victoria was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Her mother was calculating something in her mind, probably figuring out exactly how much money I'd made without any of them knowing about it. "Well," Mrs. Hale said finally, "this is certainly unexpected." My phone buzzed. Text from Nia. "Appraisal scheduled for 3 p.m. today. Janelle Carter. She's the best." I showed the screen to Victoria. "Appraiser comes this afternoon. You might want to tidy up." Victoria read the text and her face went white again. "This afternoon? But I haven't had time to." "To what? The house is clean. You've been taking very good care of it while I was working." Mrs. Hale was looking back and forth between us like she was watching a tennis match. I feel like I'm missing something here. Just a husband and wife discussing real estate, Mrs. Hale. Nothing more complicated than that. But I could see in her eyes that she knew something was very wrong. She'd raised Victoria. She knew her daughter's tells, the fidgeting with her wedding ring, the way she wouldn't make eye contact, the slight tremor in her voice. Victoria, she said quietly, perhaps you and I should have lunch later. Discuss this transition. I can't today. I have meetings. What meetings? You just got back from Charlotte. Victoria glanced at me again. Follow-up calls, reports to write. You know how it is. Indeed. Mrs. Hale's voice was getting colder by the minute. And where will you be living during this transition period? Here, Victoria said quickly. I'll be staying here until the house sells. And you, Devin? Also here. Separate bedrooms, like I said. Very civilized. Mrs. Hale nodded slowly. How modern. The doorbell rang again. This time, through the front window, I could see a black BMW in the driveway. My stomach dropped. Cole Mercer was standing on my porch. Victoria's face went white as a sheet. Mrs. Hale looked confused, and I felt something cold and dangerous settle in my chest. Expecting someone? I asked Victoria. No, I don't know why he's here. I walked to the front door and opened it. Cole stood there in a perfect gray suit, holding a leather portfolio, looking like he owned the world, until he saw me. Oh, Devin, I thought... Victoria said you were working late tonight. Did she? When did she tell you that? Cole's eyes darted to Victoria, who was standing frozen in the living room. Yesterday, on the phone, about the quarterly reports. Quarterly reports on a Tuesday morning? They're time sensitive. I stepped aside. Come in, Mrs. Hale was just visiting too. We're having a little family meeting about our new living arrangements. Cole entered the house and immediately saw the perfect posture and cold stare of Eleanor Hale. Mrs. Hale, I didn't know you were here. Mr. Mercer, how unexpected. The four of us stood in my living room like pieces on a chessboard. Cole with his perfect suit and confused expression. Victoria with her smudged makeup and shaking hands. Mrs. Hale with her pearls and growing suspicion. And me with Cole's cufflink in my pocket and a voice recording on Victoria's phone. So, I said, what brings you by so early, Cole? Just checking in, making sure Victoria got back safely from Charlotte. That's thoughtful. Did you also have a good trip to Charlotte? Fine. Yes. Good meetings with the investors. Same hotel? Cole blinked. What? Did you stay at the same hotel as Victoria? Since you were both there for the same meetings. Yes. Same hotel, different floors, of course. Of course. Wouldn't want people to get the wrong idea. Mrs. Hale was watching this conversation like she was solving a puzzle. Victoria looked like she might throw up. Actually, I said, Cole, you might want to check your pockets. I think you dropped something the last time you were here. I pulled his cufflink out of my pocket and held it up. The silver caught the morning light streaming through the windows. CM, those are your initials, right? Cole stared at the cufflink like it was a snake. Where did you find that? Kitchen floor, by the bar cart. Any idea how it might have gotten there? The silence in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mrs. Hale's eyes were moving from Cole to Victoria to the cufflink in my hand. Victoria looked like she might collapse. Finally, Cole reached out and took the cufflink. Thank you. I was wondering where I'd lost that. Lost it in my kitchen. Interesting place to lose a cufflink. I must have... When we were reviewing documents Sunday night, Victoria was showing me some contracts. Sunday night, the night she came home to grab files. Yes? And you needed to review contracts in my kitchen instead of Victoria's office? Cole's composure was starting to crack. The papers were spread out on the counter. Better light, better light for reading contracts at night. We. The kitchen table is bigger. I nodded slowly. Makes sense. And the champagne? Was that part of the contract review process? Mrs. Hale made a small gasping sound. Cole's face went red. What champagne? I walked to the kitchen and came back with one of the crystal glasses from the trash. This champagne. Crystal glasses. The good ones. Was that a celebration for closing a deal? Victoria finally found her voice. Devin, please stop. Stop what? Stop asking questions about why my wife's business partner was drinking champagne in my kitchen while I was working 22 hours straight in Charlotte. Mrs. Hale stood up slowly. I think I need to go. Mother, wait. No, Victoria, I think I need to process this information. She looked at Cole, then at Victoria, then at me. Devin, thank you for clarifying things. Always happy to help, Mrs. Hale. She walked to the front door, then turned back. Victoria, we'll talk later, when you're ready to be honest. After she left, the three of us stood in silence. Cole was fidgeting with his cufflink. Victoria was staring at the floor. I was feeling something I'd never felt before. Not anger, not hurt, something colder, something more permanent. So, I said finally, how long has this been going on? Devin, Victoria started. I'm asking Cole. Cole, how long have you been sleeping with my wife? Cole's face went through several different expressions before settling on defiant. I don't think that's any of your business. In my house, while I'm working to pay for it, I think it's exactly my business. Look, this doesn't have to be ugly. Victoria and I, we have a connection, a professional connection that became something more. A connection. Is that what you call it in that voice recording? Cole went white. What voice recording? I looked at Victoria. Want to play it again? The part where he talks about letting me mow the lawn while you two shower? You recorded us? Cole's voice cracked. No, Victoria recorded you. Accidentally. Voice message on her phone. I pulled out my own phone. But I did record me playing it back. Want to hear it again? Victoria stepped between us. Stop. Both of you. This isn't helping anyone. Helping? I looked at her. Victoria, I'm not trying to help. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to figure out when my marriage became a joke and my wife became someone I don't recognize. I'm still the same person. No, you're not. The same person wouldn't have brought her lover into our home. The same person wouldn't have giggled about her husband not knowing what was happening. The same person wouldn't have let that lover mock me on a recording. I turned to Cole. And you work with my wife every day. You know how hard I work. You know what I do for a living. You know how much I love her. And you decided to destroy it anyway. Look, man. Don't call me man. We're not friends. We're not equals. You're a thief who stole my wife. Cole straightened his tie. Victoria made her own choices. Did she? Or did you convince her that she was too good for her mechanic husband? Did you fill her head with ideas about upgrading? About presenting better? Cole's eyes narrowed. Maybe she just realized she could do better. The words hit me like a physical blow. But instead of anger, I felt that cold thing in my chest get bigger. Better, I repeated. Like you? Like someone who matches her ambition, her success, her level. Her level, I nodded slowly. And what level is that? She's a CEO, Devin. She runs a company. She makes decisions that affect people's careers, people's lives. She needs a partner who understands that world. The world of being a CEO. Yes, and I don't understand that world because I'm a mechanic. You fix cars. She builds businesses. There's a difference. I walked to the kitchen island and picked up the property deed. Cole, do you own a house? What? A house. Real estate. Do you own any? Yes. I have a condo downtown. Mortgage? 30-year fixed. I held up my deed. I own this house free and clear. Paid it off in 8 years instead of 30. Do you know how much discipline that takes? How much sacrifice? How many 70-hour weeks and missed dinners and aching backs? Cole didn't answer. And the partnership with Mr. Alvarez. Do you know what that means? You work at a garage. I own part of a garage, a successful garage that services half the fleet vehicles in this city. By next year, I'll be making more than most CEOs in this town. Cole's smug expression was starting to crack. So, when you talk about Victoria's level and matching her ambition and understanding her world, what exactly do you mean? I mean, do you mean that she's white and you're white and I'm black? The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria made a choking sound. Devin, that's not. Is it? Cole, is that what you mean about her level? About upgrading? About presenting better? Cole's face had gone from red to pale. That's not what I said. But it's what you meant. No. I pulled out Victoria's phone and scrolled to the voice recording. Want me to play the whole thing this time? The part where you talk about her white CEO wife status? Stop. Victoria grabbed for her phone. Just stop. I looked at both of them. This woman I'd married. This man who'd taken her from me. These two people who'd turned my life into a lie while I was working myself to death to build them a future. Here's what's going to happen, I said quietly. Cole, you're going to leave my house and never come back uninvited. Victoria, you're going to move your things into the guest bedroom today. We're going to sell this house, split the proceeds according to what each of us contributed, and end this marriage with whatever dignity we have left. Devin, please. Those are my terms, non-negotiable. Cole straightened his jacket. This doesn't have to be the end of the world, Devin. People grow apart. People find new connections. You're right. They do. I looked him straight in the eyes. And sometimes, the people they thought they could use and discard turn out to be stronger than they expected. Cole left without another word. Victoria and I stood in the living room, surrounded by the wreckage of our marriage. The for sale sign outside. The evidence of her affair still scattered on the kitchen counter. The sound of the door closing behind her lover. Is this really what you want? She asked finally. I looked at her. Really looked at her. At the woman I'd worked 2 jobs to support. The woman whose company I'd helped fund with my overtime money. The woman whose mother had never thought I was good enough. The woman who'd just spent 3 days in my house with another man while I worked myself to exhaustion. Victoria, I said quietly, what I wanted was a wife who respected me. What I got was a woman who let her lover mock me while they planned their affair in the house I paid for. I never meant for it to happen this way. How did you mean for it to happen? She didn't answer. The appraiser comes at 3 p.m., I said. I suggest you make sure the house looks like a home instead of a crime scene. I picked up my work bag and headed for the door. Where are you going? She called after me. To work, to the garage, to my level. I closed the door behind me and walked to my truck. The for sale sign stood bright and proud in the morning sun. Across the street, Mrs. Whitman was still pretending to tend her garden while watching my house. I climbed into my truck and drove toward Alvarez Auto Repair, toward honest work and honest people, toward a future that didn't include being mocked by my wife's lover while I broke my back to support their affair. The radio was playing an old song my grandmother used to love. Something about standing tall when the world tries to knock you down. I turned it up and drove toward my real life. The shop felt like home after the chaos of my house, the smell of motor oil and metal, the sound of air tools and honest work, the sight of Marcus already under the hood of Mrs. Rodriguez's Camry, humming some old song while he worked. Dev, Mr. Alvarez called from his office. How'd that emergency call go? Fixed her up good. Transmission's running smooth now. I set my work bag down and looked around. This place had been my second home for 8 years. Soon it might be my first home too. Come here. I want to show you something. I walked into his small office. Papers covered every surface, but Mr. Alvarez knew where everything was. He pulled out a thick folder and opened it on his desk. Partnership paperwork came back from the lawyers. Everything looks good on your end. Clean background, solid finances, stellar work record. He looked up at me with a smile. You ready to be a business owner? I thought about the deed sitting on my kitchen counter, the for sale sign in my yard, Victoria's shocked face when she realized I'd been building a future while she was tearing down the present. More than ready, Mr. Alvarez. Good. We can make this official next week if you want. My phone buzzed. Text from Nia. Appraiser confirmed for 3 p.m. Janelle Carter, she's the best. House should appraise high. Another text came in right after. 2 potential buyers want to see it Friday. You free for showings? I showed the messages to Mr. Alvarez. He whistled low. Moving fast, eh? House troubles? Something like that. He studied my face. Mr. Alvarez had known me for 8 years. He'd seen me work through my father's death, through lean months when money was tight, through the stress of Victoria's mother never thinking I was good enough. He could read me like a repair manual. You want to talk about it? Not yet, but I will. Soon. All right, but Dev, whatever's going on, remember what I always tell you. What's that? A man's worth isn't measured by what others think of him. It's measured by what he builds with his own hands. I spent the morning working on a brake job, letting my hands stay busy while my mind processed everything that had happened. The shock in Victoria's eyes when she saw the deed, Cole's arrogant assumption that I was beneath them both, Mrs. Hale's growing realization that her perfect daughter's marriage was falling apart. Around noon, my phone rang. Victoria. Devin, we need to talk. I'm working. The appraiser is coming in 3 hours. The house is a mess. There are boxes everywhere, papers scattered around. What am I supposed to tell her? Tell her the truth. You're getting divorced and selling the house. I can't tell her that. What if word gets out? What if it affects my business? I set down my wrench and leaned against the workbench. Victoria, what exactly do you think is going to happen here? What do you mean? Do you think we're going to pretend everything is fine? Do you think you can keep having your affair while I smile and play the happy husband? I ended it with Cole. When? This morning, after you left. And you think that fixes everything? Silence on the other end. Victoria, you let that man mock me in my own house. You giggled about me not knowing what was happening while I worked myself to death. You called me your little mechanic husband while you planned your affair. I never said that. Cole did, and you didn't stop him. Devin, please, can we just get through the appraisal? Can we present a united front for one afternoon? I looked around the shop. Marcus was still humming under the Camry's hood. Mr. Alvarez was on the phone with a parts supplier. Everything here was real, honest, built on respect and hard work. No, I said. No. No united front. No pretending. The appraiser is coming to evaluate a house that's for sale because the marriage is over. That's the truth. But my reputation? Your reputation is not my problem anymore. I hung up and went back to work. At 2:45, I drove home to meet the appraiser. The for sale sign looked even bigger and brighter in the afternoon sun. Mrs. Whitman was definitely watching from her front window this time, not even pretending to do yard work. Nia's car was already in the driveway. She got out as I pulled up. Hey cousin, how you holding up? Better than expected. Good. Janelle's running a few minutes late, but she'll be here soon. You ready for this? Ready? And Victoria? Inside somewhere, probably trying to make everything look perfect. Nia studied my face. Dev, what exactly happened here? Your text this morning was pretty vague. I looked at the house, my house, the house I'd paid for while my wife used it for her affair. I'll tell you everything later. Right now, I just need to get through this appraisal. A silver Honda pulled up. A professional looking woman in her 40s got out, carrying a tablet and measuring device. You must be Devin. I'm Janelle Carter. We shook hands. Her grip was firm, confident. Naya tells me you're looking for a quick but fair appraisal. That's right. House needs to sell fast. Any particular reason for the urgency? Before I could answer, the front door opened. Victoria appeared, perfectly dressed and made up, smiling like nothing was wrong. Hello, you must be the appraiser. Welcome to our home. Janelle looked between Victoria and me. You could cut the tension with a knife. Shall we take a look around? Janelle asked diplomatically. We started in the living room. Janelle took notes on her tablet while measuring walls and windows. Victoria hovered nearby, pointing out features like the hardwood floors and crown molding. Beautiful work, Janelle said, running her hand along the baseboards. Professional installation? I did it myself, I said. Really? This is excellent craftsmanship. Victoria's smile got tighter. We moved through the house room by room. In each space, Janelle found work I'd done. The tile in the guest bathroom, the built-in shelves in the den, the upgraded electrical outlets throughout the house. You're quite handy, Janelle said. These improvements add significant value. My husband is very skilled with his hands, Victoria said in a tone that could freeze water. We ended up in the kitchen where this morning's confrontation had happened. Janelle measured the island and took photos of the appliances. Granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, excellent natural light. This is a beautiful kitchen. I thought about Cole's cufflink on this counter, the champagne glasses in the trash, Victoria's voice on that recording, giggling about her boring husband. It's seen a lot of use lately, I said. Victoria shot me a warning look. Janelle finished her measurements and put away her equipment. I'll have a preliminary assessment by tomorrow afternoon, but I can tell you this is a well-maintained property with excellent improvements. You should do very well in this market. After she left, Nia lingered on the porch. I've already got interest, she said quietly. 2 potential buyers want to see it Friday. 1 couple, 1 family, both pre-approved for the full asking price. That fast? Good houses in good neighborhoods sell fast, Dev. And this is a very good house. After Nia left, I sat in my truck for a moment before going inside. The appraiser had confirmed what I already knew. I'd built something valuable here. Something real. Something worth protecting. I found Victoria in the kitchen, standing exactly where she'd been during our morning confrontation. The appraisal went well, she said. It did. Devin, about what I said earlier, about ending things with Cole. What about it? I meant it. It's over between us. I leaned against the counter where Cole's cufflink had been. Why? Because I realize now that I made a mistake, that I let myself get carried away, that I hurt you. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Why is it over? Because you got caught? Because your mother suspects something? Because there's a for sale sign in the yard and people are asking questions? Victoria didn't answer right away. Or, I continued, is it over because you finally realized that what you did was wrong? I I know it was wrong. Do you? Because this morning you seemed more worried about your reputation than about our marriage. I'm worried about both. No, you're not. You're worried about how this looks. You're worried about what people will think. You're worried about your image. I pushed off from the counter and walked toward her. But you're not worried about us, Victoria, because there is no us anymore. There could be. We could work through this. Go to counseling. Start over. Start over. I repeated the words slowly. And what would that look like? We could we could try to rebuild trust. Trust. The trust you destroyed when you brought your lover into our house while I was working. I said I was sorry. No, you didn't. You haven't said you're sorry once. Victoria blinked. I I am sorry. I'm sorry this happened. You're sorry it happened. Not sorry you did it. Not sorry you hurt me. Sorry it happened. Like it was an accident, like you tripped and fell into bed with Cole Mercer. That's not fair? Fair? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Victoria, you want to know what's not fair? Working 22 hours straight to fix someone's transmission while your wife uses your house for an affair? That's not fair. I know, and having your lover mock you on a voice recording while your wife giggles about you being too stupid to notice. That's not fair. Devin, please. Being called someone's little mechanic husband by a man who couldn't change his own oil. That's definitely not fair. Victoria's face was getting red. I never called you that. You didn't stop him. I was. I wasn't thinking clearly. For how long? How long have you been not thinking clearly? What do you mean? How long has this been going on with Cole? Victoria looked away. A few months. How many months? Since. Since the spring? It was October now. That meant 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of her coming home to me after spending time with him. Half a year of me working overtime to pay for the house where she was cheating on me. 6 months, I said quietly. It wasn't serious at first. It was just flirting. Harmless. When did it become serious? I don't know. Gradually. Victoria. My voice was getting colder. When did you first sleep with him? She flinched like I'd slapped her. Devin. When? July. July, 3 months ago. Right around the time I'd made the final payment on our mortgage. While I was working extra shifts to pay off our house early, she was starting an affair with her business partner. July, I repeated. It was a company retreat. We'd all been drinking. It just happened. It just happened. And then what? It kept just happening? We tried to stop. We really did. But the connection was so strong and you were working so much? And I was lonely. I was working to pay off our house, Victoria. I was working to build us a future. I know, but there is no but. I walked to the window and looked out at the for sale sign. While I was sacrificing everything to make us financially secure, you were throwing it all away. I didn't mean for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? Victoria didn't answer. My phone buzzed. Text message. I looked at the screen and felt my blood turn to ice. The message was from Cole, but it wasn't sent to me. It was sent to Victoria. But she'd left her phone on the counter and the notification popped up on my phone too. We were still connected on the family plan. Can't wait for tonight. Hotel downtown. Usual room. I held up my phone so Victoria could see the screen. Usual room? I asked quietly. Victoria's face went white. Devin, that's not. I told him we were done. Usual room, Victoria. How long have you had a usual room? That's from before. He doesn't know I ended things yet. Doesn't he? Because that message was sent 5 minutes ago. Victoria grabbed for her phone. I could see her fingers shaking as she scrolled through her messages. I'll tell him right now. I'll call him and end it completely. Don't. What? Don't call him. Don't text him. Don't end anything. I don't understand. I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman I'd married 4 years ago. This woman I'd loved and supported and worked myself to exhaustion for. This woman who'd been living a double life for 6 months. Go, I said. Go where? To the hotel. To your usual room. To Cole. Devin, no, I don't want to. I want to stay here and work this out. No, you don't. You want to have your cake and eat it too. You want to keep your affair and keep your marriage and keep your perfect image. That's not true. Then prove it. How? Choose. Victoria stared at me. Choose what? Him or me, tonight, right now? Choose. I choose you. I choose us. No. I shook my head. You don't get to choose me because you got caught. You don't get to choose me because there's a for sale sign in the yard and your mother is suspicious and the appraiser saw our marriage falling apart. I walked closer to her. You've been choosing him for 6 months. You've been choosing him every time you lied to me, every time you snuck around, every time you used our house for your affair, every time you let him mock me. Devin, please. So now you get to choose one more time. But this time, I'll know exactly what that choice means. I don't want to go to that hotel. Then don't. Stay here. But if you stay, you need to understand something. What? This marriage is over either way. The only thing you're choosing is how it ends. Victoria sank onto one of the bar stools. What do you mean? If you go to Cole tonight, then you're choosing to end this marriage the same way you've been living it for 6 months, with lies and sneaking around and disrespect. And if I stay, if you stay, then maybe we can end this marriage with some dignity. Maybe we can get divorced like adults instead of having me expose your affair to everyone who knows us. Victoria's eyes went wide. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Tell the truth? Play that voice recording for your mother? Show Cole's cufflink to your business partners? Forward his text messages to your board of directors? That would ruin me. Yes, it would. We stared at each other across the kitchen island, the same place where this morning she'd learned I owned the house, the same place where I'd found Cole's cufflink, the same place where everything had fallen apart and everything had become clear. What do you want from me? She whispered. I want you to be honest. For once in 6 months, I want you to be completely honest. About what? About what you really want, about who you really are, about what this marriage has really been to you. Victoria was quiet for a long time. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Whitman's dog barking, a car driving past, normal neighborhood sounds from a world where marriages weren't exploding and lives weren't being rebuilt from scratch. Finally, she spoke. I want to feel important again. What? I want to feel like I matter, like I'm special, like I'm worth something. And you don't feel that with me? Not for a long time. Her honesty hit me like a punch to the gut, but I made myself keep listening. When we got married, you made me feel like the most important person in the world. But then, I don't know. Life got routine. You were always working. I was building my company. We became roommates instead of lovers. So, you found a lover. I found someone who made me feel alive again, someone who saw me as more than just a wife who needed to be provided for. Provided for. The words tasted bitter. Is that what you think I was doing? Providing for you? Weren't you? I was building us a life, Victoria. I was working my ass off so we could have a future, so you could focus on your company without worrying about money, so we could own our home instead of renting, so we could have security. But what about passion? What about romance? What about feeling like we were special to each other? I thought about all those nights I'd come home exhausted from work and found her on her laptop, working on her company. All those dinners where we'd eaten in silence because we were both too tired to talk. All those weekends where I'd worked on house projects while she attended business events. When did we stop talking to each other? I asked. I don't know. Somewhere along the way. And instead of talking to me about it, you started talking to Cole. It wasn't supposed to happen that way, but it did happen that way. And now here we are. Victoria wiped her eyes. Here we are. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Cole. Victoria, you coming tonight? I showed her the screen. He's waiting for your answer. Devin, I don't want to lose you. You already have. But maybe, no maybe, Victoria, look at me. She looked up. This marriage has been over for months. We just didn't admit it. You checked out when you started your affair. I checked out when I realized my wife didn't respect me enough to be faithful. I do respect you. No, you don't. If you respected me, you wouldn't have brought Cole into our house. If you respected me, you wouldn't have let him mock me. If you respected me, you would have talked to me about your feelings instead of starting an affair. Victoria was crying now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no desire to comfort her, just a strange, cold clarity. So what happens now? She asked. Now you choose Cole or dignity, your affair or your self respect, your image or your integrity. And you? What do you choose? I looked around the kitchen, at the granite countertops I'd installed, at the pendant lights I'd hung, at the tile backsplash I'd laid myself. All of it built with my own hands while trying to make a home with a woman who was dreaming of someone else. I choose myself, I said. For the first time in years, I choose me. Victoria's phone rang. Cole's name appeared on the screen. Answer it, I said. Devin, answer it. Tell him whether you're coming tonight or not. Victoria stared at the phone like it was a snake. And Victoria? Yes? Whatever you choose, remember this. I'll know. Your mother will know. Everyone will know. Because I'm done protecting your image. I'm done making excuses for you. I'm done being your safety net while you swing from branch to branch. The phone kept ringing. Choose, I said. Victoria picked up the phone. Hello, Cole. I couldn't hear his side of the conversation, but I could hear hers. No, I can't meet you tonight. Pause. Because my husband is here and we're working things out. Pause. Longer this time. I know what we planned, but things have changed. I shook my head and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Victoria called after me. To pack my things. But I chose you. I chose to stay. I turned back. No, Victoria. You chose to lie to Cole the same way you've been lying to me. You chose to keep playing both sides. You chose to stay because it's safer, not because it's what you want. That's not true, isn't it? If Cole hadn't sent those texts, if I hadn't caught you, if there wasn't a for sale sign in the yard forcing your hand, would you have chosen to end your affair? Victoria didn't answer. That's what I thought. I headed upstairs to start packing. Behind me, I could hear Victoria on the phone again. Cole, wait, let me call you back. But I was already gone, climbing the stairs to the bedroom I'd be moving out of tonight, to start the process of building a new life from the wreckage of the old one. A life where I wouldn't have to wonder who was in my house while I was working. A life where I wouldn't have to pretend that disrespect was love. A life where I could choose myself without apology. From downstairs, I heard Victoria's voice, muffled but clear enough. Cole, it's me. Can you pick me up? I think I need to talk to you in person. I smiled grimly as I pulled my suitcase from the closet. Some choices revealed more about a person than 100 conversations ever could. Victoria had just revealed everything I needed to know. I spent Thursday night at a hotel downtown. Not the same one where Victoria was meeting Cole. I had more respect for myself than that. A simple place near the shop where the rooms were clean and the staff minded their own business. Friday morning came with clear skies and a text from Nia. First showing at 10 a.m. Young couple pre-approved, cash offer possible. You ready? I was more than ready. I drove to the house at 9:30. Victoria's car wasn't in the driveway. Good. The for sale sign stood bright and proud in the morning sun, and I noticed Mrs. Whitman was already positioned by her mailbox, pretending to sort mail while keeping one eye on my house. Nia pulled up just as I was unlocking the front door. How'd last night go? she asked, climbing out of her car with a box of supplies. About like I expected. Victoria made her choice. Nia studied my face. You okay? Better than okay. I'm free. We spent 20 minutes preparing the house for showing. Nia arranged fresh flowers, adjusted blinds for perfect lighting, and made sure every surface gleamed. The house looked like a magazine spread, which was ironic, since it had never looked this good when we actually lived in it as a couple. The buyers arrived at exactly 10 a.m. David and Sarah Chen, both doctors looking for their first home together. Young, professional, clearly in love. Everything Victoria and I had pretended to be. Beautiful curb appeal, Sarah said as we walked up the front steps. The owner did most of the exterior work himself, Nia explained. Really? That's impressive. We toured the house room by room. David admired the crown molding in the living room. Sarah loved the kitchen island and the pendant lights above it. They both got excited about the hardwood floors and the built-in shelving. This is incredible craftsmanship, David said, running his hand along the banister I'd refinished last winter. You can tell someone really cared about this house. The owner is very skilled, Naya said. Everything you see was done with attention to detail and quality materials. In the master bedroom, Sarah opened the walk-in closet and gasped. David, look at this organization system. Custom built-ins, perfect lighting, everything has a place. I installed that last year, I said. Took me 3 weekends, but it was worth it. You're the owner? David looked surprised. I am. Why are you selling? This place is perfect. I looked around the bedroom where Victoria and I had slept side by side for 4 years while growing further apart every night, where she'd probably texted Cole while I slept after exhausting days at the shop, where she'd planned her lies while I dreamed about our future. Sometimes perfect isn't enough, I said quietly. The showing lasted 45 minutes. The Chens asked good questions about utilities, property taxes, neighborhood schools for future kids. They took pictures, measured spaces, discussed possibilities in whispered conversations by the windows. After they left, Naya was practically glowing. They love it, Dev. I can tell. They're going to make an offer. How can you be sure? 20 years of doing this. I know the look. They were already mentally arranging their furniture. My phone buzzed. Text from Mr. Alvarez. Partnership papers ready for signature. Come in when you can. Good news? Naya asked, reading over my shoulder. The best. I'm about to become a business owner. Look at you, moving up in the world. I thought about Cole's words from yesterday, about Victoria needing someone who matched her ambition. Someone who understood her level, someone better than her mechanic husband. Yeah, I said, moving up. The second showing was at 1 p.m. A family with 2 young kids relocated from Chicago for a job opportunity. The parents loved the location and the school district. The kids loved the big backyard and the finished basement. Daddy, look! Their daughter squealed, running to the swing set I'd installed last spring. Can we play here? We'll see, honey, the father said, but he was already calculating property lines and imagining soccer games on the lawn. This showing lasted an hour. The family was thorough, practical, asking about maintenance issues and neighborhood safety. The mother especially appreciated the security system I'd installed and the motion sensor lights around the perimeter. You've really thought of everything, she said. I wanted it to be a safe place to build a life, I replied. After they left, I sat on the front porch steps for a few minutes. 2 potential buyers in one day, both clearly interested. The house I'd poured my heart into for 4 years was about to become someone else's fresh start. My phone rang. Victoria. Devin, where are you? At the house. We had showings today. Showings? Already? 2 of them. Both went well. Silence on the other end. Victoria? You there? I'm here. I didn't think it would happen so fast. Good houses sell fast. Devin, we need to talk. About what? About last night, about my choice. You already made your choice. You went to Cole. I know, but I need to explain. No, you don't. Your choice explained everything. Please, can I come over? Can we talk face to face? I looked at the for sale sign, then at Mrs. Whitman still watching from across the street. In a few hours, this whole neighborhood would know that the perfect couple in the perfect house wasn't so perfect after all. Fine, but make it quick. I have somewhere to be. Victoria arrived 20 minutes later, driving Cole's black BMW instead of her own car. That detail wasn't lost on me. She got out slowly like she was walking to her own execution. Whose car? I asked as she approached. Cole's. My car. I left it at the hotel. Convenient. We went inside and sat in the living room. Victoria perched on the edge of the sofa like she was ready to run. I took the chair across from her, keeping distance between us. How was your night? I asked. Awful. Really? Cole not as exciting as you remembered? Victoria flinched. It wasn't about excitement. It was about clarity. What kind of clarity? The kind that makes you realize you've been lying to yourself. I leaned back in my chair. Go on. Being with Cole last night, after everything that happened yesterday, it felt wrong, dirty, like I was someone I didn't recognize. You were? You were someone who cheats on her husband. I know that. But last night, for the first time, I really felt it. The weight of what I'd done, the person I'd become. And? And I realized that I didn't like who I was when I was with him. Victoria's voice was getting smaller, more vulnerable, but I'd heard her sound vulnerable before, usually when she wanted something. What exactly did Cole say to you last night? What do you mean? At the hotel. What did he say about our situation? About the house being for sale? About me? Victoria looked down at her hands. He said, maybe it was for the best, that you were holding me back anyway. Holding you back from what? From my potential, from the level I could reach if I wasn't tied down to, to what, Victoria? To someone beneath my social class. The words hung in the air like a slap. Finally, after 6 months of lies and games and pretending, the truth was out. He said I was beneath your social class. Yes. And what did you say? Victoria was quiet for a long time. I said he was right. I felt something inside me break. Not my heart. That had been broken yesterday. Something deeper. The last thread of connection between us. The final hope that maybe, somewhere inside, Victoria still saw me as an equal. You said he was right. In the moment, yes. But Devin, this morning This morning, you woke up in a hotel bed next to a man who thinks your husband is beneath you, and you agreed with him. I was confused. I was hurt. I wasn't thinking clearly. No, Victoria. You were thinking clearly for the first time in months. You finally said out loud what you've been thinking all along. That's not true, isn't it? Your mother never thought I was good enough. Your friends always looked down on me. Your business partners treated me like your charity case. And you just let them. I tried to defend you. When? When did you ever defend me? Victoria opened her mouth, then closed it. Never, I said. Not once in 4 years of marriage did you ever stand up for me when your people made their little comments about the mechanic who married above his station. They didn't mean. Yes, they did. And so did you. You've been embarrassed by me from day one. The only difference is that now you found someone who gave you permission to act on it. Victoria started crying. Real tears this time, not the manipulative kind. Devin, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for all of it. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry there's a for sale sign in the yard. You're sorry your perfect image is cracking. But you're not sorry for who you are. You're not sorry for how you see me. I could change. No, you can't. And I wouldn't want you to. What do you mean? I stood up and walked to the window. The for sale sign was perfectly visible, and I could see Mr. Patterson from down the street slowing down as he drove past, craning his neck to get a better look. Victoria, you are exactly who you are. You're ambitious, successful, driven, image conscious, and classist. That's not going to change because you got caught cheating. That's not going to change because your husband turned out to be stronger than you expected. But we could try. No, we couldn't, because I'm exactly who I am too. I'm a man who works with his hands, takes pride in building things, values loyalty and respect, and refuses to apologize for not being born into money. I turned back to face her, and the truth is, we were never really compatible. We just pretended to be for 4 years. I loved you. No, you loved the idea of me. The idea of being generous enough to marry beneath your station. The idea of having an interesting story about your blue collar husband. The idea of being different from your mother's snobby friends. Victoria's crying got harder. But you never loved me. The real me, because the real me embarrassed you. That's not true. Victoria, yesterday when your mother was here, when Cole was here, you kept trying to manage the situation, trying to control how I looked to them, trying to minimize the damage to your image. You never once stood beside me. You never once said, "This is my husband and I'm proud of him." I didn't know what to say. You said everything. Your silence said everything. My phone buzzed. Text from Nia. The Chens want to make an offer. Full asking price. 30-day close. You interested? I showed the text to Victoria. Her face went white. They're offering full price? Apparently. But that's so fast. That's what happens when you build something valuable, Victoria. People recognize it. I typed back to Nia. Accept the offer. Let's move forward. Devin, wait. Victoria stood up. Please don't do this. Give us more time. Give me a chance to prove I can change. Change into what? Into the wife you deserve. The wife I deserve wouldn't need to change. The wife I deserve would have never cheated in the first place. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. A series of choices over 6 months. And now I'm making my choices. I headed toward the stairs. Where are you going? To get the rest of my things. The buyers want to close in 30 days, so I need to be out soon anyway. Devin, please. What if I ended things completely with Cole? What if I quit the company? What if I moved away from my mother and all the people who influenced me? I stopped at the bottom of the stairs and looked back at her. Victoria, do you hear yourself? You're talking about changing everything about your life, everyone in your life, everything that makes you who you are. That's not fixing a marriage. That's creating a different person. Maybe I need to be a different person. Maybe you do, but not for me, for you. I don't understand. If you want to change, if you want to become someone who values character over class, loyalty over image, substance over status, then do it. But do it because you want to be that person, not because you think it will get me back. And if I do, if I really change. I looked at this woman I'd married 4 years ago. This woman who'd shared my bed and my dreams and my bank account while dreaming of someone else. This woman who'd just admitted that she agreed with her lover that I was beneath her social class. Then maybe someday you'll find someone who deserves the person you become. But it won't be me. Why not? Because I deserve someone who never had to learn to respect me, someone who never had to be taught that I was worthy of loyalty, someone who saw my value from day one and never questioned it. I started up the stairs. Devin? I turned back one more time. What's going to happen to me? She asked in a small voice. I don't know, Victoria. That's up to you. Will you will you tell people about Cole? About what happened? I thought about the voice recording on her phone, about Cole's cufflink, about the text messages, about all the evidence of their affair that I could use to destroy her reputation if I wanted to. I won't have to, I said finally. What do you mean? The truth has a way of coming out, especially in a neighborhood like this, with people like your mother, in a business like yours. But you won't actively. Victoria, I'm not going to destroy you, but I'm not going to protect you either. Not anymore. I went upstairs and spent the next hour packing my remaining clothes, my tools, my books, and the few personal items that mattered to me. Everything fit in 3 boxes and 2 suitcases. 4 years of marriage reduced to things that could fit in the back of my truck. When I came downstairs, Victoria was gone. Cole's BMW was no longer in the driveway. On the kitchen counter, she'd left her keys to the house and a note. Devin, I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better than me. I hope you find it. V. I picked up the keys and the note. Simple words, but maybe the most honest thing she'd said in 6 months. My phone rang. Mr. Alvarez. Dev, you coming in today? We've got papers to sign. On my way. I loaded my boxes into the truck, took one last look at the house I'd built and the for sale sign that announced my freedom, and drove toward my new life. The shop was busy when I arrived. Marcus was training a new apprentice on brake pad replacement. The radio was playing classic rock, the smell of coffee mixed with motor oil and honest work. There's my new business partner, Mr. Alvarez called out as I walked into his office. The partnership paperwork was spread across his desk, official documents that would make me part owner of Alvarez Auto Repair, with a path to equal partnership over the next 5 years. You sure about this? Mr. Alvarez asked as I reviewed the contracts. More sure than I've been about anything in a long time. I signed my name on every line, initialing pages that represented my future, my real future, built on my own skills and dedication, not on someone else's image or expectations. Welcome to the family business, Mr. Alvarez said, shaking my hand. Thank you for believing in me. I've been watching you for 8 years, Dev. You've got integrity, you've got skill, you've got heart. That's all a man needs to build something lasting. That evening, I moved into a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but clean and quiet and mine. I set up my tools in the spare bedroom, hung my certificates on the wall, and for the first time in months, slept through the night without wondering where my wife was or who she was with. Saturday morning brought a text from Nia. House inspection scheduled for Monday. Buyers still committed. This is really happening. It was really happening. The house would sell. The marriage would end. The new life would begin. But first, I had somewhere to go. I drove to my old neighborhood one more time, not to see the house, but to tie up loose ends. The for sale sign was still there, but now it had a bright red under contract banner across the top. Mrs. Whitman was in her front yard, clearly hoping for information. Devin, how are you, dear? Doing well, Mrs. Whitman. Thanks for asking. I see the house sold quickly. That's wonderful. Yes, it is. And Victoria? How is she adjusting to the move? I looked across the street at the house I'd called home for 4 years. All the windows were closed, curtains drawn. Victoria's car was back in the driveway, but Cole's BMW was nowhere to be seen. Victoria's figuring things out, I said diplomatically. Well, I hope you'll both be very happy in your new place. I'm sure I will be. Mrs. Whitman caught the pronoun difference, but was too polite to ask directly. Give her my best, won't you? I will. But as I drove away, I knew I probably wouldn't see Victoria again. Not before the closing, anyway. Maybe not after. Our paths were diverging in ways that couldn't be undone. That afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. "This is Cole. We need to talk." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "No, we don't. There are things you don't understand about Victoria and me. I understand enough. She's confused right now, emotional. She doesn't know what she wants. She knows exactly what she wants. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. Look, if you really loved her, you'd fight for her." I almost laughed. If I really loved her, I'd let her go, which is exactly what I'm doing. "You're giving up." "No, I'm choosing dignity." Cole didn't text back. Sunday evening, my phone rang. Victoria. "Devin, I need to tell you something." "What?" "I'm taking a leave of absence from the company. I need time to think about who I am and what I want." "That's probably smart." And I told my mother everything about Cole, about the affair, about why we're getting divorced. How did she take it? About like you'd expect. She blamed you for not being attentive enough, blamed me for being weak, and blamed Cole for taking advantage of the situation. So, she blamed everyone except herself for raising a daughter who thinks marriage is disposable. That's not fair, isn't it? Your mother spent 4 years making it clear that I wasn't good enough for you. That had to affect how you saw me. Maybe, but I made my own choices. Yes, you did. Devin? Yeah? Do you hate me? I thought about that question. About the woman I'd married, the betrayal I'd discovered, the humiliation I'd endured, and the strength I'd found in walking away. "No," I said finally. "I don't hate you. Do you think do you think you could ever forgive me?" "Probably. Someday. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation." "I know." "Victoria." "Yes?" "I hope you figure out who you want to be, and I hope when you do, you like that person better than the one you've been." After we hung up, I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes still to be unpacked, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not happiness. Not yet. But peace. The peace that comes from choosing yourself. The peace that comes from setting boundaries and keeping them. The peace that comes from walking away from something that was destroying you, even when walking away was the hardest thing you'd ever done. My phone buzzed one more time. Text from Nia. "Closing scheduled for 3 weeks from Friday. Congratulations, Dev. You're about to be a free man." I was already free. The closing would just make it official. Outside my window, the city hummed with life. People going to dinner, meeting friends, building relationships based on mutual respect and genuine affection. People who didn't have to wonder if their partners were ashamed of them. People who didn't have to choose between their dignity and their marriage. For the first time in years, I was one of those people, and it felt good. 2 weeks after the closing, I was a different man. Not different on the outside. I still woke up early, still worked with my hands, still drove the same truck to the shop every morning. But inside, everything had changed. The weight I'd been carrying for months was gone. The doubt that maybe I wasn't good enough, smart enough, successful enough. All of it vanished the moment I chose myself over a marriage that was slowly killing me. The partnership with Mr. Alvarez was everything I'd hoped for and more. We'd landed 3 new fleet contracts in the past week alone, big companies that needed reliable service for their delivery trucks and work vehicles, companies that didn't care about my social class or whether I went to college. They cared about results, and results were something I knew how to deliver. "Dev, you see this?" Marcus called out from under the hood of a delivery van. "They want us to service their entire Southeast division. 40 vehicles." "That's good money," I said, reviewing the contract proposal on my tablet. "Good money and steady work. Mr. Alvarez is already talking about hiring 2 more mechanics and expanding into the building next door." I looked around the shop that was now half mine. The busy bays, the satisfied customers, the sound of honest work being done well. This was what success looked like when it was built on substance instead of image. My phone buzzed. Text from Nia. Final walkthrough scheduled for 3 p.m. Friday. You planning to be there? I considered it. The house closing had gone smoothly 2 weeks ago. Clean, professional, no drama. Victoria hadn't shown up. She'd signed everything through her lawyer. I'd walked away with enough money to buy a small house in a nice neighborhood, plus enough left over to invest in expanding my share of the business. Probably not, I texted back. That chapter's closed. Understood. BTW ran into Victoria's mother at the grocery store yesterday. How'd that go? Awkward. She asked about you. Said Victoria moved back in with them temporarily while she reassesses her priorities. I wasn't surprised. Victoria's perfect image had cracked beyond repair. Word had gotten out about the divorce, about her leaving the company, about the affair. In her social circle, that kind of scandal didn't stay quiet for long. She also said something interesting, Nia texted. What? Said she always thought you were the best thing that ever happened to Victoria and that her daughter threw away a good man for fool's gold. I stared at that message for a long time, Mrs. Eleanor Hale admitting she'd been wrong about me. It was too little, too late, but it still felt like vindication. People see things clearly when it's too late, I texted back. Truth. Anyway, proud of you, cousin. You handled all this with class. That afternoon, I was test driving a restored 1987 Lamborghini Countach that had been sitting in our special projects bay for 3 months. The owner was a collector who'd brought it to us after two other shops had given up on the electrical system. Complex work, but the kind of challenge I lived for. The car purred like a satisfied cat as I drove through the winding roads outside town. Perfect balance, perfect power, perfect engineering brought back to life through patience, skill, and attention to detail. My phone rang through the car's Bluetooth, number I didn't recognize. Devin Cole speaking. Devin, this is Amara Johnson. I'm a content creator who worked with Victoria's company. I pulled over into a parking lot. What can I do for you, Amara? I wanted to apologize. For what? For the photos, for the gossip, for contributing to the circus around your divorce. I remembered her now. The influencer who'd taken pictures at Victoria's failed tasting event. The one who'd started the whispers about our marriage. You were just doing your job, I said. No, I wasn't. I was being messy. And after everything came out, after I learned what really happened, I felt terrible. What exactly do you think happened? I think a successful woman got seduced by the idea that she was too good for her hardworking husband. I think she listened to people who told her she could do better. And I think she realized too late that better on paper doesn't mean better in real life. Amara was smarter than I'd given her credit for. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I wanted you to know that not everyone believed the narrative. Some of us could see what kind of man you really were. And what kind of man is that? The kind who builds things instead of tearing them down? The kind who keeps his word? The kind who walks away with dignity instead of burning everything down on his way out the door? After we hung up, I sat in the Lamborghini for a few more minutes, thinking about perception and reality, about how the same story could look completely different depending on who was telling it. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number, but I recognized the tone immediately. This is Victoria. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to say something. I considered not responding. Our story was over, but curiosity won. Say it. I've been in therapy for the past 2 weeks. Real therapy. Not just talking to friends or family who tell me what I want to hear. Good for you. My therapist helped me understand something about why I did what I did, about what I was really looking for in that affair, which was I was looking for someone to make me feel superior, someone to make me feel like I was winning at life. Cole made me feel like I was the prize, and you made me feel like I should be grateful. Grateful for what? For being loved for who I really was, instead of what I could do for someone else. I read that message 3 times. It was the most honest thing Victoria had ever said to me. And now, I typed, now I realize that being loved for who you really are is the only kind of love that matters. And I threw that away because I was too insecure to believe I deserved it. What happened with Cole? He moved on, found another successful woman to charm. Turns out his interest in me was about as deep as mine was in him. I'm sorry. Don't be. I got exactly what I asked for. Someone who saw me as a status symbol instead of a person. I put the phone down and started the Lamborghini again. The engine roared to life, all 12 cylinders working in perfect harmony. Sometimes broken things could be fixed. Sometimes they just needed someone who understood how they were supposed to work. But sometimes the damage went too deep. Sometimes the best thing to do was start over with something new. Friday morning arrived clear and cold. I drove to the old neighborhood not for the final walkthrough, but for closure. I wanted to see the house one more time before new people filled it with new memories. The under contract sign had been replaced with a simple sold banner. The Chen family would be moving in next weekend. Good people who would appreciate what I'd built, who would create the kind of life Victoria and I had only pretended to have. I parked across the street, next to Mrs. Whitman's house. She came out immediately, like she'd been watching for me. Devin! How wonderful to see you! How are you settling into your new place? Very well, thank you. And your business? I heard you became a partner. News travels fast in this neighborhood. Only good news about good people, she said with a meaningful look. The other kind of news, well, that travels differently. I understood. Victoria's fall from grace had been swift and public. Her mother's friends, her business associates, her social circle, they'd all witnessed the collapse of her perfect image. That was punishment enough. Mrs. Whitman, can I ask you something? Of course, dear. Did you know about what was happening in my house? She looked uncomfortable. I suspected something wasn't right. Strange cars at odd hours, lights on when they shouldn't be. But it wasn't my place to say anything. I understand. But Devin, I want you to know that everyone on this street respected you. The way you maintained your property, the way you helped neighbors with repairs, the way you carried yourself. You were an asset to this community. Thank you. That means more than you know. I was about to get back in my truck when another car pulled up. A silver Mercedes that I recognized immediately. Mrs. Eleanor Hale stepped out, looking older and more fragile than I remembered. Devin, she said quietly. Mrs. Hale. We stood there for a moment, two people who had never really understood each other, separated by class and culture and assumptions that had proven to be wrong on both sides. I owe you an apology, she said finally. You don't owe me anything. Yes, I do. I spent 4 years believing that my daughter was doing you a favor by marrying you. I thought she was being generous, charitable even. I was wrong. Mrs. Hale, let me finish. You were the one doing her a favor. You gave her stability, loyalty, a work ethic she could have learned from. You gave her a home, a future, a man who would have stood by her through anything. She paused, gathering herself, and I taught her to see that as settling instead of as a blessing. We all make mistakes. Some mistakes cost more than others. Victoria lost the best man she'll ever find because I raised her to believe that pedigree mattered more than character. I looked at this woman who had never approved of me, who had spent 4 years making me feel like I wasn't good enough for her daughter. Mrs. Hale, can I tell you something? please. Victoria didn't cheat because of how you raised her. She cheated because she chose to. Just like I chose to walk away with dignity instead of burning everything down. We all make our own choices. But influences matter, yes, but they don't determine everything. Victoria could have chosen to value what we had. She could have chosen to work on our problems instead of running to someone else. She could have chosen to respect me even if her social circle didn't. Mrs. Hale nodded slowly. You're right, of course. The thing is, I'm glad it happened. Glad? If she hadn't cheated, if I hadn't found out, I might have spent the rest of my life wondering why I never felt good enough. Now, I know it was never about me. It was about her. Mrs. Hale's eyes filled with tears. What's going to happen to her? I don't know. That's up to Victoria. She's lost without you. Lost and alone and ashamed. Then maybe she'll find herself. Maybe she'll figure out who she wants to be when she's not trying to impress anyone. And you? Have you found yourself? I looked around the neighborhood where I'd tried so hard to fit in, at the house where I'd worked myself to exhaustion trying to build a life with someone who saw me as a charity case, at the for sale sign that had started my journey back to self-respect. I never lost myself, Mrs. Hale. I just forgot my worth for a while. I drove away from that neighborhood for the last time, but instead of feeling sad, I felt lighter, free, ready for whatever came next. That weekend, I closed on a small house in a different part of town. Nothing fancy, but solid construction with good bones and a garage where I could work on side projects. The kind of place where neighbors cared more about character than net worth. Sunday morning, I was in that garage, working on my own project for the first time in years, a 1969 Mustang Boss 429 that I'd bought at an estate sale. Not running when I got it, but with potential that most people couldn't. See? Like me, it just needed someone who understood its value. I was installing a rebuilt carburetor when I heard a car pull into the driveway. Through the garage window, I saw a familiar silver SUV, Victoria. She got out slowly, like she was approaching a wild animal. She looked different, thinner, less polished, more real. Hello, Devin. Victoria, what are you doing here? I wanted to see your new place, wanted to congratulate you. Congratulate me? On the partnership, on the house, on building a life that's actually yours. I wiped my hands on a rag and leaned against the workbench. How did you find me? Nia. I asked her not to tell you I was coming because I was afraid you'd leave. Smart assumption. Victoria walked into the garage, looking around at my tools, my projects, my workspace. This is nice. This is you. What do you want, Victoria? I want to tell you something. Something I should have said months ago. Which is, I was wrong about everything. About what success looked like. About what mattered in a marriage. About what kind of man deserved my respect. She paused, gathering courage. And I was wrong about you. You weren't beneath me. I was beneath you. Victoria, let me finish. You worked 2 jobs to pay off our house while I was building a company that I thought made me important. You created security while I created image. You built something real while I built something hollow. I listened, but I didn't respond. There was nothing to say that would change what had happened. I know it's too late, she continued. I know I destroyed something that can never be repaired, but I need you to know that I finally understand what I lost. What did you lose? A man who loved me for who I was, not for what I could do for him. A man who would have been loyal forever if I'd just given him the same in return. A man who saw our marriage as a partnership instead of a competition. Victoria's voice cracked. I lost my best friend, my biggest supporter, my safe place in a world that's always judging and measuring and comparing. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I'd married, loved, lost, and finally let go. She seemed smaller now, more human, like the perfect image had been stripped away, leaving only the person underneath. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said quietly. I did find it. 4 years ago. I just didn't recognize it at the time. Victoria, we can't go back. I know. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you to know that I finally see clearly. I finally understand that the best man I ever knew was the one I had, and I threw him away for someone who saw me the same way I saw you, as a trophy instead of a person. She turned to leave, then stopped. Devin? Yeah? Someday, when you meet someone who deserves you, who sees your worth from day one, who never makes you question whether you're good enough, I hope you'll be happy. I'm happy, Victoria. I'm glad. After she left, I went back to work on the Mustang. Patient, methodical work that required focus and skill and time. The kind of work that couldn't be rushed or faked or bought. As the afternoon sun slanted through the garage windows, I realized something. Victoria's apology hadn't changed anything for me. I didn't feel vindicated or satisfied or complete. I'd already worked through my anger, found my peace, built my new life. Her words were for her, not for me, part of her own healing process. And that was okay. We all had to find our own way forward. Monday morning brought a new week, new projects, new possibilities. I drove to the shop with the radio playing and a smile on my face. Not because my ex-wife had apologized, but because I'd built something good from the ashes of something broken. At lunch, I drove past the old neighborhood one more time. Not from nostalgia, but because it was on the way to a parts supplier. The house looked good. The new owners had already put up different curtains, planted new flowers, begun the process of making it their own. There was a bike in the driveway and a swing set being assembled in the backyard. Life moving forward. Fresh starts. Second chances. As I drove past, I noticed Mrs. Whitman in her yard. She waved, and I waved back. Simple acknowledgement between people who understood that some stories end badly so that new ones can begin well. A few blocks away, stopped at a red light, I saw Cole Mercer in the car next to mine. He was on his phone arguing with someone, his face red with frustration. He looked older, more desperate, like the charm that had served him so well was finally wearing thin. He glanced over and saw me. Our eyes met for just a moment. I nodded politely, the way you acknowledge anyone you've crossed paths with before. He looked away first. The light turned green, and we drove in different directions, toward different futures, different choices, different kinds of men. That evening, I sat on the small porch of my new house, drinking coffee and watching the neighborhood settle into night. Kids calling to each other as they played in yards, couples walking dogs, the sound of dinner preparations and homework help and normal family life. Peace, real peace, built on self-respect and honest work and the knowledge that I'd chosen correctly when it mattered most. My phone buzzed. Text from Nia. Saw Victoria today. She looks rough. You okay? Better than okay, I texted back. Good. BTW, Mrs. Rodriguez asked if you're single. Apparently, her niece is a teacher, just moved here from Atlanta, looking to meet a good man. I smiled. Not because I was ready to date, I wasn't, not yet, but because the question assumed that I was worth meeting, that I had something to offer, that I was a catch, not a charity case. Too soon, I replied, but ask me again in 6 months. Will do. Proud of you, cousin. 6 months from now, maybe by then I'd be ready to open my heart again, to trust someone new, to build something lasting with someone who saw my worth from the beginning. Or maybe I'd still be content with the life I was building on my own. Either way, I'd be fine. Because I'd learned something important in the wreckage of my marriage. I'd learned that the right person will never make you feel like you're not enough. The right person will never need to be convinced of your worth. The right person will choose you every day, not just when it's convenient. And until I found that person, or decided I didn't need to find them at all, I had work to do, a business to build, a life to live, a future to create with my own hands. The Mustang in my garage was coming along nicely. Another few months of patient work, and she'd be ready to show the world what she was really capable of, just like me. I finished my coffee, turned off the porch light, and went inside to plan tomorrow's projects, tomorrow's possibilities, tomorrow's quiet victories in a life built on substance instead of image. Outside, the neighborhood settled into peaceful sleep, and somewhere across town, in a mansion that had never really been a home, Victoria was probably staring at the ceiling, wondering what might have been if she'd chosen differently. But that was her story now. This was mine, and it was just getting started. Some mornings she still sees my Lambo outside, not stopping, just reminding. I shift into gear and drive toward my new life. In the rearview mirror, the for sale sign grows smaller until it disappears completely, taking the past with it. Ahead, the road stretches wide and clean, full of possibilities I'm finally ready to claim. The morning is bright, and I am free.